On the frostbitten moon of Ishtar, there stood a temple older than most stars, carved from black crystal that hummed softly beneath the weight of time. The inhabitants of Ishtar, known across the galaxy as the Quarre, had built their entire civilization on a single sacred principle: silence. They believed the first breath of the cosmos had been a quiet sigh, and that to disturb this primordial hush was to defy the will of creation itself. Children were taught from birth to communicate only through subtle gestures, eye glances, and gentle touches. The deepest love confession, the most agonized grief, all passed in total silence. Within the temple, 1,000 robed figures knelt each day, their translucent eyes turned toward a towering obsidian monolith. It was said to contain the first echo of the universe, an echo no Quarre had ever dared awaken. Then came the human. His name was Elijah Torres, a starship engineer turned explorer who had followed ancient star maps and rumors of a quiet moon where no song had ever been sung. When he stepped onto Ishtar's cold plains, the Quarre watched from the shadows, appalled by the rasping noise of his breath, the crunch of his boots on the snow. Elijah, in his wanderlust, stumbled upon the temple of silent voices. At first, he marveled at its impossible stillness. Every wall and corridor absorbed sound until even his own heartbeat felt stolen. He tried to whisper once, and the silence devoured it whole. Despite the alien glares and frightened gestures urging him to leave, he stayed. Day after day, he observed their sign language, their careful steps. He saw the devotion in their silent prayers, but also the buried grief in their unblinking eyes. He saw old ones trembling in solitude, young ones yearning to laugh but smothering it before it reached their lips. On the 7th day, Elijah could no longer bear it. He stepped into the great hall, beneath the monolith that had not echoed in eons. As the Quarre knelt, eyes wide and horrified, Elijah drew a shaking breath and began to sing. The first notes stumbled, raw and human. But then they rose, a rich, aching tenor that wove through the crystalline arches, painting them with warmth they had never known. The song carried longing and joy, the ache of loneliness, the sweetness of reunion. It rose and soared, like a bird long imprisoned finally tasting the open sky. The Quarre recoiled at first, many collapsing to the floor as if struck. Their ancestors had taught them that sound would shatter their souls, but as the song deepened, something ancient shifted. The monolith trembled, and thin, luminous cracks spread across its surface. In those vibrations, the Quarre felt echoes of things long forgotten. The laughter of a mother cradling a newborn, the joyful clamor of a shared feast, the sweet agony of farewells whispered in the dark. The silence they had worshipped for millennia revealed its true nature, not peace, but prison. Some began to weep silently, their shoulders shaking. A few, emboldened by something deep within, opened their mouths for the first time in their lives. One let out a hoarse gasp, another a shaky exhale that turned into a sob. Elijah's voice cracked with emotion, but he kept singing, tears running down his face. He moved through them, touching trembling hands, guiding them to feel the rhythm pulsing through his chest. A young Quarre girl, her eyes shining brighter than any star, dared to echo a single note. It was weak, barely more than a breath, but it echoed off the monolith and returned 1,000-fold. Another joined her, then another. Soon, the hall resonated with a fragile chorus, thin, stuttering, but alive. With each note, the monolith's cracks widened, releasing a swirling light that painted the room in colors beyond the human spectrum. The Quarre felt centuries of sorrow, repression, and longing shatter like thin glass. When Elijah finally lowered his voice to a soft hum, the hall no longer felt heavy and suffocating. It pulsed with energy, each Quarre glowing faintly as if newly born. They turned to one another, hands trembling at their throats, voices tentative and clumsy, but each sound was greeted with radiant smiles and tears. Afterward, the Quarre gathered outside, standing beneath the open sky of Ishtar. For the first time, they dared to speak aloud to the stars. Songs rose, awkward at first, then surging with harmonies so alien and beautiful that the stars themselves seemed to lean in to listen. Elijah remained with them for many seasons, teaching them to shape their voices into stories, songs, and laughter. Together they built new temples, not of silent black crystal, but of living, shimmering resonance. And when Elijah's voice finally failed him in old age, the Quarre carried him to the great hall. There, beneath the now glowing monolith, they sang him to sleep, each note carrying their love, their gratitude, and their newfound freedom. They had worshipped silence for millennia. But one human song awakened them to a universe more alive, more chaotic, and more miraculous than they had ever dared imagine. And in every corner of the stars, it was said that if you listened closely, you could hear the quarry still singing, forever echoing that first human note that lit the cosmos awake.